Sound and global vibration. Imagine this, 8 billion people farting at the exact same time. What would that actually sound like? First, think about a football stadium. When 100,000 people cheer together, it's already deafening. Now, multiply that by 80,000. That's the entire human population, releasing gas in perfect sync. The result? It would sound less like individual farts, and more like a massive thunderclap, a rolling wave of noise spreading across continents. But here's the interesting part. Sound is energy. When billions of sound waves overlap, they amplify each other. That means the combined boom could be loud enough to shake glass windows. Some scientists even believe it might register on seismographs, the same instruments that detect earthquakes. So, for a few seconds, the Earth would feel like it was trembling. Not because of an asteroid, not because of a nuclear bomb, but because humanity created the loudest, strangest sound in history. And the funniest part? It wouldn't just be heard. It would be felt, deep in your chest, like standing next to giant speakers at a concert. Explosion of gas. Now, let's talk about the gas itself, because fart is not just air. It's a mix of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and yes, methane. Methane is important. It's the same gas that makes cow farts a problem for climate change, and it's also highly flammable. So here's the big question. If 8 billion people released methane at the same time, would it be enough to cause an explosion? Let's do a simple comparison. One average fart contains about half a liter of gas. Multiply that by the entire human population, that's almost 4 billion liters of gas released in a single moment, enough to fill more than 1,000 Olympic swimming pools. Now, imagine all that methane trapped in one place. Add a single spark, and boom, it could create an explosion larger than any fireworks show on Earth. But here's the good news. In reality, the gas would spread too quickly into the atmosphere. So, while it wouldn't literally blow up the planet, it could create a massive, stinky cloud, big enough to be detected by satellites, just like how NASA tracks pollution from space. So the world wouldn't explode, but for a few minutes, Earth would officially become the smelliest planet in the solar system. Environmental effects. So, what about the environment? What would happen to the air and the atmosphere if every single human farted at the same time? First, remember, farts are not pure poison. They are mostly nitrogen and carbon dioxide, but about 1% is methane and hydrogen sulfide. These are the smelly parts, and in large amounts, they can actually affect the air. Now, imagine 8 billion farts released in 1 second. That is a giant pulse of greenhouse gases. Of course, one single event would not destroy the climate, but for a short time, the concentration of methane in the lower atmosphere would spike. Scientists could probably detect it. In fact, satellites that track pollution might suddenly report a strange global signal, a mysterious cloud circling the planet, all caused by synchronized human digestion. And there's another effect. Hydrogen sulfide, the compound that makes farts smell like rotten eggs, is toxic in large doses. But don't worry, our synchronized fart wouldn't kill anyone. The gas would quickly spread and dilute. Still, for a few moments, the air in crowded cities might smell absolutely unbearable. So, the environment would survive, but Earth would experience a short, smelly shockwave. A reminder that even something as small as a fart, when multiplied by billions, can leave a mark on the atmosphere. Social and cultural impact. Now let's think about the social side. What would it mean for humanity if the entire world farted together? Normally, farting is embarrassing. People hide it, people laugh at it, and sometimes people even judge it. But if 8 billion people farted at the same time, there would be no shame left, because everyone, from presidents to school kids, did it together. For one brief moment, humanity would be united, not by war, not by technology, but by one of the most basic human functions. In fact, this event could change culture. Memes would explode across the internet. Historians might call it the Great Global Fart. It could even become an annual celebration, a day where people remember the time the whole planet laughed together. Sociologists would say it's proof of collective identity, that even something silly can create a sense of unity, because when billions of people share the same ridiculous experience, suddenly the world feels a little smaller and a little funnier. So in a strange way, the global fart wouldn't just shake the Earth. It might also bring us closer together. Medical effects. All right, let's talk about the human body. What would happen medically if everyone farted at the same time? First, here's the science. Farting is not just random noise. It's actually an important part of digestion. When bacteria in your intestines break down food, they release gas. That gas has to leave the body. If it doesn't, you feel bloated, uncomfortable, and even sick. So when 8 billion people fart at once, it means 8 billion people are suddenly relieved. Billions of stomachs would feel lighter in the exact same second. Imagine the wave of relaxation. It would probably be the biggest collective sigh of relief in history. But here's the funny part. If you always hold in your farts, it can be bad for your health. Doctors say it can cause bloating, abdominal pain, and in rare cases, even diverticulitis, a painful condition in the colon. So, in a weird way, the global fart would be like mass medicine, a worldwide release of pressure. For once, everyone's digestive system would say thank you. And if you think about it, this also shows something bigger. Our bodies are designed to let things go. Holding them in is never healthy, which means farting, as silly as it is actually a sign that your digestive system is working exactly as it should. Animals and nature reaction. But what about animals? How would nature react if the entire human race farted at the same time? First, think about pets. Dogs, cats, birds, they rely on their hearing to sense danger. Now imagine the sudden boom of 8 billion farts. To them, it would feel like a massive thunderstorm out of nowhere. Dogs would start barking. Cats would run under the bed. Birds might even fly away in panic. Wildlife would react too. In the ocean, whales and dolphins could hear the rumble echoing through the water. On land, elephants and lions might think it's an earthquake, and flocks of birds could suddenly take off into the sky, like nature itself was startled by a global prank. But here's the funny science. Animals fart too. Cows, horses, even termites produce more methane than humans. In fact, cows are one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases. So while humans farting together would be shocking, to the animal kingdom, it might just sound like we're finally joining the club. In the end, nature would recover quickly. But for a few hilarious minutes, the entire planet, humans and animals alike, would be united in confusion. Weather disturbance. Now, picture this. At the very same second, every single human on Earth releases gas into the air. That sudden burst would send billions of tiny pressure waves upward, filled with methane, carbon dioxide, and heat. For a short moment, the atmosphere would feel a shock. Normally, the air around us stays balanced, with gases mixing slowly. But here, the sudden addition of so much gas in one instant could disturb that balance. What would happen next? Local weather systems might be pushed slightly off track. In regions where the air is already unstable, that extra burst of heat and pressure could create sudden gusts of wind or strange cloud formations that appear and fade quickly. Think of it like tossing a rock into a calm lake. The waves spread out, ripple by ripple. In the same way, this global fart would ripple through the atmosphere, causing small but noticeable changes in how the air moves. It wouldn't create a worldwide storm, but in some places, it could intensify existing weather. A light rain might suddenly turn into a heavy downpour. Calm skies might develop unexpected turbulence. In short, our giant synchronized release would act like a brief atmospheric shock, temporarily disturbing the natural rhythm of Earth's weather. Tectonic fartquake. Now, let's take this to an even crazier level. What if the force of billions of people farting at the exact same moment didn't just shake the air, but actually reached the ground? Here's how it could work. A fart is basically a mini explosion of gas under pressure. One person alone can't move the Earth, but when you multiply that by 8 billion, all happening at once, the combined shockwave could push downward, sending vibrations into the ground. On solid rock, nothing dramatic would happen, but in areas where the ground is loose, like sandy soil or wetlands, this sudden wave of pressure could act like a tiny earthquake. We might see windows rattling, small cracks forming in weak structures, or even the ground shifting slightly under our feet. Now, let's push it even further. If the synchronized release lined up with fault lines, places where tectonic plates are already under stress, it could give the Earth a tiny nudge. Not enough to cause a massive disaster, but possibly enough to trigger microquakes that would otherwise happen days or weeks later. So, in theory, a global fartquake could exist. Not world-ending, but definitely powerful enough to surprise people with trembling ground, rattling objects, and maybe even reports of a mysterious, unexplained shake.